Why are beliefs such a problem? Belief is a pretty powerful subject that can be discussed and also argued at length. In the worlds of paranormal subjects and cryptozoology, belief is the underlying bedrock. It's something that pretty much sits like concrete in the back of every mind in the field. Investigators believe in a lot of things that others often find humorous or ridiculous, and it causes a lot of distress. And they also don't all agree with each other. They're constantly not only debating with skeptics, but they're also debating with other believers. And I've listened to so many of these arguments and also engaged in them myself before I realized something very important that I want to share. Amid all the controversy, I've decided how we can eliminate probably half of the arguments out there about it. It's that little tool called understanding, and it works pretty well if we're all engaged in the process. And this is helpful in any aspect of our lives in which beliefs turn into an argument or debate. And here it is. Before we engage in a debate with another person about something we either do or don't believe in, we need to first make sure that we're having a conversation about exactly the same thing. And what the heck am I talking about? Of course we're arguing about the same thing. We're both using the same word, right? Not so fast. This may sound like the most simplistic, almost ludicrously obvious thing, but definition is really important before we have an argument about any such thing. Definition is the key component in dispelling any confusion about the subject we're discussing. The definition of the subject has to be determined by all parties concerned before we can have a truly constructive discussion about it. And as I've listened to arguments about beliefs, whether they be political, religious, social, paranormal, the oversight of absolutely defining the core debate subject is the biggest problem and causes more debates to literally never end. So, in recent years, when I've been asked whether or not I believe in some entity, like, say, Bigfoot, that's often talked about in my circles, rather than just answering the question right off, I usually start the answer with a request, and that request is, define Bigfoot. And why do I feel the need to do this? Because the asker or interviewer has his or her own definition of what Bigfoot is, or he or she may not believe at all. So before I can give a really informed answer to the question, I have to know what their personal definition of the subject is. The interviewer might then proceed to tell me they define Bigfoot as a mythical, huge, hairy monster that attacks people in the woods like the creature in Boggy Creek. If that's their definition, then no, I don't believe in that. But if they gave me a different definition, my answer would be different. After years of experience and research, do I believe there is some relict hominid possibly related to humans and probably smart enough to elude humans for centuries while inhabiting the woods of North America? Yes, I believe in that. Do you see how important the definition was in order for me to answer the question? And can you see how, if I'd answered yes to the question without asking for a definition first, how the interviewer might instantly start to believe I'm unintelligent or just plain delusional, believing in a mythical monster? What a difference a definition makes. Whenever someone asks me if I believe in anything, I ask them to first define what they mean. Because all those things outside of mainstream thought, like the metaphysical, paranormal, psychic, unknown, or spiritual, need a concise definition before we decide what we think about them and before we decide they're real. And it helps to allow us to answer the question and be completely understood. Another of my favorite subjects to reference here are psychics. I brought up the subject of psychics to a colleague not long ago, which could have turned into a little argument, but didn't. And here's why. "So, you believe in psychics, huh?" he asked me. And right away, I knew I had to answer this in a very profound way or he'd never take me seriously again. And this was after I'd studied this definition hypothesis of mine for months, and I decided now was the time to try it out. I raised my head in just a hint of defiance and said, "Define psychic." "You know, people that can read minds and predict stuff before it happens." I shook my head. "Oh, those. No, I don't believe in that stuff." I do, however, believe there are people who have more highly developed intuition and instincts than average people, and have a strong sixth sense that they might possibly be able to use for good. It's now widely believed that some people are more sensitive to certain kinds of stimuli and energy than others that might lead them to avoid certain bad situations or convince someone else to. That's what I would call a psychic. And I waited for a short moment for the backlash, but instead he said this: "Oh, I definitely believe in a sixth sense, and some people having a stronger intuition, and instincts are definitely real, so who knows?" So, though it doesn't always happen this way, and some people don't believe in anything strange no matter what, this was a possible argument that was diffused before it even started, all because we determined our personal definition of the subject first, and found we had a little more in common than we thought. Instead of a supposed rival deciding I was stupid, he gave me more of a benefit of the doubt, because I'd made myself clear from the get-go. In paranormal or cryptozoology realm, if two people are arguing about the validity of some entity and one believes and the other one doesn't, and no one involved really tries to dig up the answer as to why, and this is often why, often the ones doing the arguing are closer together in their beliefs and ideas than they realize, if only they dug a little deeper and each defined the subject first. This is Dorraine Fisher with the Crypto Crew around the campfire.